So the monoblock is back in the mill. I'm going to take a 1/2 inch end mill and I'm going to remove the center section that's going to go over the top of the bridge. And then I'm going to take a key cutter and make the same cut pass at the proper height for the lumps for where they'll end up. And the key cutter is just a little smaller diameter than what the Jones rotary piece for the underlever is going to be, so I'll have to file it out a little farther on each side when it's all done, but that'll be fine because I can do that during the fitting process. So this just saves me a whole lot of time. I won't have to cut it in by hand or file it in by hand. I can remove most of the material with these two bits here in the mill. So about 2 hours worth of machine time to cut that and the two bite lumps out of this with the key cutter. Key cutter is kind of a slow process when you're trying to push the whole cutter through, but anyways, went through and then I used a file to clean it up a little bit and open it up just a little bit. It's got quite a ways to go because this gap's only 900 thousandths and the rotary piece is going to be about 1 inch, so I'm going to have to take about 50 thousandths out of each side of this. Should be a little bit of work, but not too bad. Everything came out real nice. You'll notice as I tip this in that it fits right down over the top of the bridge real nice, and that it doesn't have hardly any play in it. And that's important in this. One of the things that makes a Jones action so strong is it's not just the hinge pin that acts as a bearing surface. This shoulder here actually bears against the bridge when it's all fitted up, and so that adds a considerable amount of strength to the action. Keeps it from coming off of face, handles more pressure that way. So it's important that this cut be right and that it fit really well. So I'm happy with the way that came out. It has just a thousandth or two of play in it, so by the time it's fitted up it should fit real tight. And the width and everything has come out real good on this. I can just barely get a start in here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it'll just barely start into the recess there, which is good because by the time the machine marks are cleaned up and I clean up the inside a bit and fit everything, it should slide right in there real nice, close tolerance. So that's what I was looking for with that process. All total is probably about 4 hours of work, about 2 hours of machine time, and then about 2 hours of file and a little bit of sandpaper on the sides to kind of clean up a little bit of the machine mark and make sure everything was going to start in okay. But you get the idea. It's going to be a pretty nice fit once it's smoked and filed and scraped and put together. So on to the next part. Next part is I'm going to drill for the hinge pin. And then, so I got a hole drilled through here. It's just slightly under 1/2 inch, and I've got a regular straight reamer that I'll use to clean that up, but that'll be later. What you'll notice is down inside of here, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but down inside of here, drilling this through, took out everything but just this little bit of corner on each side, here and here. And so I'll have to come in and clean those up with some tools and get that corner squared up so that it's running at the same edge as the side walls. But drilling it, if you do it right, takes out almost all of it. Takes all but just this last little bit out of the bottom of each corner. So that takes that original radius of the mill cutter out. And you'll notice that the pin's just slightly below surface and gives me half of the pin supported here. Most of the pin body supported is in the radius, and of course there's all this thickness on each side that's going to support the pin. So a lot of strength in that. Pretty good system. Works really good. You'll notice that I got a few little layout lines here on the next couple of parts. I still haven't changed over to my rotary table yet because I'm not ready to make these rotary cuts here, but you can probably see on this one I've got to make the cuts on this next. And they're laid out. What I did was I wiped a little cold blue on there so I can get my layout lines. But there's a couple of layout lines on there, and where my radius is going to stop, that'll match the radius of the pin. So that'll be the next set of cuts, is to remove this material and remove the radius where the half radius where the pin will go through. Later on, when I'm actually fitting this up, what I'll do is I'll use an undersized pin. I'm not going to ream this hole out for a while. I'll use an undersized pin in there, do all my fitting with an undersized pin, and then once everything's really snug, tight, and fit, I'll put both pieces completely together, clamp them in place, drive the pin out, then I'll run my reamer down in and put a precision pin in that matches my reamer. So that gives me, what it does is it gives me you know, a little bit of leeway when I'm fitting stuff. If things aren't absolutely perfect, then what I can do is I can leave this piece out, ream my hole, put my pin in, gains me a couple thousandths, allows me to move my breech face back and keep everything tight and fitting properly. So it's kind of just a little safety measure, not reaming this out right away, allowing me to, you know, if I do get into a problem and I end up making a mistake somewhere in the fit of the breech face, it gains me a couple thousandths so I can push the breech face back. So it's just a good little safety way to do it, and keeps things fitting real tight in the finished product. So there we have it. The hook for the hinge pin is cut in. It's not too bad. Looks like it'll be in pretty good position. A little hard to actually line this up to where you can actually see it because of the radius in there, so it won't drop all the way down onto the water table, but once that radius is removed, it'll be able to drop clear down onto there and you'll be able to see how close it really is. But not too bad for now. The next set of cuts, before I go over to the rotary table and start making those round cuts, is I got to remove the material here for where the extractor is going to be, and that's going to be about a 1/4 inch material taken out of this whole section right here. I figure if I can get roughly 1/3 of the case rim, or maybe a little less than 1/4 of the case, if I can get a 1/4 or 1/3 of the case rim, that's a pretty good grabbing surface. If I just get a 1/4 of it here, that's actually quite a bit of surface area that'll be able to pull that case out. And since the rims on these are 1/8 of an inch thick, means two things. One, they're going to be really stiff anyway, so it's not like I have to worry about tearing a rim off. But the other thing is that means this cut's going to have to be about a 1/4 of an inch deep. And that will allow me 1/8 of an inch for the rim, and then another 1/8 of an inch for material to actually get behind the rim and grab a hold of it. So that's going to be my next set of cuts, is to remove this whole area. So there we go. Have the recess cut in for where the extractor is going to be, and drilled the 3 holes for the guide rods. This one will just be a guide rod. These 2 will be pusher rods. Eventually what I'll end up doing is I'll end up machining the other end of these pockets in for where the connectors will go, and actually push on the rods to push the extractor out. But you'll notice they don't go all the way through. They're just drilled to depth. Takes a little time to do that. It's a peck drilling operation. Takes a while. I've actually didn't do it on this one. This one, all 3 holes drilled really well, and I didn't have any problems. But when I built the first single shot, I actually busted a drill bit off in one of these, and ended up coming in and machining the pocket in and driving the drill bit back out. But I got good drill holes on this one. Didn't break a bit or anything on this one, so this one worked out really good. So on to the next part of this, and I'm pretty much at a point where there really isn't a lot more machining I can do to this until I start fitting things up, so I'm going to have to start in and change my setups on my mill and do these radiuses next. So that's pretty much where I'm at, and we'll go from there.